Happy Wednesday. No, Thursday, everybody. Wow, we got here fast. It is Profit Concierge Snackables, and I have with us today my friend Misty Cogdill. Where are you actually living, Misty?
I'm in Alabama right now.
In Alabama, so in one of the warmer states these days. And I am thrilled to have her. So I had a conversation with Misty when she first joined the group and learned a bunch of stuff I knew nothing about before and am fascinated by it. And it all has to do with her handwriting. So let me tell you a little bit about Misty, and then you don't want to miss today's conversation because I learned so much just in my little conversation with her that I asked her if we could expand on it here in the Facebook Live. So she's been studying handwriting analysis since 2011, and she works with business owners, network marketers, entrepreneurs, coaches, speakers, anybody who wants to increase their business and reach their goals using handwriting analysis and the power of questions. So unlike other coaches, Misty develops specific coaching to help her clients reach their goals by analyzing their personality traits and the blocks that are hidden in their handwriting. As a student of the power of questions, she understands that life really reflects the questions we ask ourselves and is going to help you uncover the best questions to serve you. So your handwriting can reveal behavioral patterns. Who knew? Limiting beliefs and blocks that hold you back from your true potential. When we fall in love or survive a serious illness or change careers, our view of life is dramatically altered. And as a result, and I didn't know this, our handwriting patterns change. So desired transformations can result from intentionally changing the way we write specific letters. Specific cursive handwriting is a tool that can help improve your life and rewire your brain. And we've had a lot of conversations on this Facebook group, in this group, on this Profit Concierge Snackables about rewiring our brains. So in short, changing your handwriting can help you get rid of bad habits, limiting beliefs, and anything that's holding you back from your greatest potential. So Misty created the Handwriting-Soul Academy last year to help people unlock that true potential and overcome limiting beliefs. And she believes that together we can create our best lives possible. And I am thrilled you took the time to jump on with us today because I want to dive in on this topic and find out more. Welcome.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you.
So glad to have you. So what on earth, and I know this story, but I'd like you to share it, got you to recognize all of the story and power that's held in our handwriting?
Yeah, great question. I have a long history of it. A lot of it started when I was little. My mom wanted to change her handwriting since before I was born. And so by the time I was old enough to really know what it was, I was like, why? It's no big deal, right? Like, who cares? It's just handwriting. And so I never really understood. And then it wasn't until I was older and I actually got married in my 20s. I didn't, when women obviously would take on a different new last name and I didn't hyphenate my maiden name, it's not like the next day, bam, you're a different person. When your handwriting is a graphic representation of your thought patterns, it's a map on paper to how you think. So as women, when we start to write that new last name, we slowly start to shift the neurological patterns in our brain that actually rewires like who we are and how we experience life and how we see the world. It's like a different lens, like different glasses. All of a sudden you've got blue glasses and now I'm looking out of red glasses. So, but again, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not like you get married and the next day, bam, you're a different person. It's something that's gradual, that shifts over time. That's why a lot of people didn't connect the dots with it. So when I went from being married till a year later, it was a year later that I started to recognize, hey, I'm different. I'm not experiencing life like I once did. I don't feel the same. I don't feel myself. Like, what happened? And I didn't know. I didn't have any answers. Nobody else had answers. They're just like, hey, you changed with life. That's just the way it is. And I was like, no, something happened. I could feel it and I knew it, but I didn't have answers and nobody else had answers for me. So I was really left in the dark for 6 years. And then when I got my maiden name back, I ended up getting divorced, got my maiden name back. And again, I didn't just shift overnight. It wasn't the next day, bam, I was a different person. It was gradual. So I slowly started to shift back into my old self. And again, then I recognized, hey, I'm me again. And so it took a long time of really diving deep and processing and kind of trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together and asking a lot of questions of myself, asking a lot of questions to really dive deep, like what happened. I didn't understand, and trying to find answers that led me to be able to put all the puzzle pieces together, which eventually I was able to write my book, You Can Heal Your Life with Handwriting. It was an Amazon bestseller last year, and it's my whole story, my whole journey about how I kind of got to put all the puzzle pieces together to understand that, your handwriting, especially for women who get married and change their name, it has an impact. It is important. And that was just the beginning of it. I've since studied it for the last 10 years very passionately, just to find answers. I was just looking for answers to what happened. And then I started to uncover all the things that you can do with it and all the benefits of it and all of what's possible with it, and that there is a beneficial way to write, and that, there's a lot of research out there. I've done a lot, but just really putting all the pieces together, it made it all make sense. And then I was like, wow, does everybody else know this? Because it's not very well known, especially for women who get married and change their last name. So I was like, well, I want to be a voice for women and say, hey, this matters. Hey, this is important. We need to pay attention. We need to understand what we're doing, and then choose wisely, instead of just by default not understanding and not having any answers to those major life changes that happen to us.
Wow. So it sounds like the realization snuck up on you that it had to do with handwriting and writing, and that maybe was there a moment at which you kind of went, aha, or was it kind of a slow evolution?
It was definitely a slow evolution, because like I said, I didn't get married and then the next day I was different, because if that happened to everybody, we would have all figured this out a long time ago. So because it was so gradual and so slow within the process of a year, that I just sat back and I was like, I am not the same person. And I'm like, where did I make a right turn and I should have made a left turn? Like, what happened? When did I stop being myself? How did this get caused? I had a lot of questions with no answers.
Well, that's the thing I love about you, is your stick-to-itiveness. Like, you didn't accept the stock answer of, oh yeah, that happens. You said, maybe there's something specific here, because there's something going on. So, but it's not just apparently when we write our names. So there's so much more to it, I think. And like you were saying to me at one point, there's cursive, there's printing. Like, so if you were talking to somebody who was stuck or had some sort of a block, say, what are some of the things you would look at for them?
So I've worked with several people, and I've actually had, I've got so many stories. I would be on here for several hours with it, but one of the main things that I want to talk about, I know, is like capital letters. When people write in all caps, there's a lot of gentlemen out there that write in all capital letters. And I've worked with several people who have, and then I've said, do you feel like you keep everyone at arm's distance length, not letting them get close to you? And all of them have said yes. And they kind of look at me like, how did you know that without knowing who I am? And I said, well, it builds walls, and it allows you to not connect with your emotions as much, which then create blocked, stuffed emotions and stuff that's not getting worked through. Which creates a whole nother area of problems with,
sorry, let me mute.
with not having emotions or anything like that. It's not that they don't have emotions, but it's just a blockage. There's a major blockage that gets created when somebody does write in all capital letters. So I worked with a gentleman, for example, he was in sales, and he wrote in all capital letters, and he said, well, he wanted to get more sales and whatnot. And then I had told him, I said, well, you do the program or whatnot. And he took all my advice, did everything. And one of the things that he said is that his 3-year-old son was not very cuddly at all. And because of that, he didn't really understand. But after the program, after he was done with the program and changed his handwriting, it showed up that his son, he goes, because I was asking him what were some of the impacts and changes that have showed up. And he goes, there was nothing wrong with my marriage before, but it just got really good. And he goes, it's like we're in love all over again, and things just amplified, as well as he said his 3-year-old son was very cuddly, and his 3-year-old son was not a cuddly kid with him. And so because he was writing in all capital letters, that shifted and allowed his son to get close to him. And his son is 3. So, you know, they're just kind of a reflection of us in some way. Children kind of reflect their parents on some level. And so all of a sudden his son's being more cuddly, and he was just like, I had no idea. He goes, you can't put a price tag on that.
Wow. Yeah, that's the thing. You can't put a price tag on that. If you all of a sudden remove either something you're not aware of or a limiting belief of some sort, that can change your world, like for this dad with his kids. So that's fantastic. So my guess is a lot of people come into you for business coaching and counseling and end up getting a lot of other things that kind of unblock for them. So,
Yes.
all right. So I'm a very neat, small writer. Like it looks like something like this. I don't know if you can see it. All right.
Yep. Yes.
So what's just something in general you can say to these small, neat writer people?
That's a great question. Yeah, I always have shared with people that whenever you write really tiny, and printing, you are coming more from the intellect. And whenever you write really big and really bubbly, you're coming more from a heart-centered, or more from your heart energy versus your intellect energy. So all of it, every letter has a pattern and has an energy, and every word, you know, the way it's written, how it's written, the letters in it, like it's all important. The more I started studying this, the more I realized there was more to learn. And it just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper. I was like, wow, how deep does this go?
Wow. So it really is a discipline that you can study all the way down to the very details. And that's interesting because you said that when I'm writing notes on a daily basis, when I'm working with clients or making notes for my team or whatever, which is what this is, I write in this small, very neat handwriting. When I'm in my journal, I write in cursive. So I wonder that may be part of it, is that, you know, one is more from the heart or from the spirit, and one is, you know, oh, got some practical things to handle here.
Yep.
So that's interesting. I think about bringing the cursive into the work and see what happens if it changes the creativity level.
Yeah. Well, the way
What a
we were
fun
in grade
thing about.
school was 80% limiting. So when I realized that, I said, well, we were all kind of set up not to succeed, because when you're writing, you know, like the big bubble A or the backwards D or the figure 8 S, like I could go into all the different letters and the details, but those all create blockages. And I've tried to, for the longest time, I was like, how do I explain this to people? What's an analogy that I could explain what's actually happening? And the analogy that I've come up with is it's really as simple as like if you were in a canoe and you were going upstream in a river versus downstream. Obviously, if you're in a canoe going upstream, it's going to be a lot harder. You're going to sit there and paddle a lot more, and you're going to go against the current, and everything in life is just going to be a little bit harder. Whereas if you turn around, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier. You can just go. Not that the bumps in the road aren't going to be, or the, you know, rocks in the river, you're still going to have to go around them. You're still going to have to go through all that, but it's a lot easier than trying to go upstream than it is going downstream.
Yeah. And so what that's really saying is there's a way to find what your handwriting style is, and it aligns with your whole spiritual journey, because there's a lot of talk about the upstream, downstream as well in our spiritual journeys. It's like, you know, let go of the paddle, go with the stream. And that tends to lead us to where we're supposed to be, as opposed to where we think we're going to add value by paddling upstream and we're going nowhere. It's interesting to me because we have a restaurant nearby us that's right on the Delaware River, and it's fun to go out there and watch the fishing boats, because you'll see them just paddle upstream, drift back, paddle upstream, drift back. So I get that image of sort of getting nowhere, because every time you rest, you lose the ground. I have an interesting question here too for somebody that isn't handwriting. Valentino's asking about the importance of font. Is that something that affects us as well, what fonts we like?
Well, the font is a reflection of what we like and what we're comfortable with. And I know when letters are written a certain way, I've seen certain fonts, and then I'm like, oh no, I'm like, that's not written correctly, or that's not, the font isn't showing.
Wow.
If someone was to actually say, oh, I want to write like that font. There are some fonts where I'd be like, no, 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 that's not going to serve you. That's going to create self-sabotages. That's going to create limits. That's going to create blocks. So I don't
Wow.
like looking at fonts necessarily. Like I have a pillow that says Beyond Blessed, and there's a big loop in the D, and I'm like, no, that's wrong. But I like the word, I like that it says Beyond Blessed, but I do always look at the handwriting and I'm like, oh no, they didn't do it right.
That is so funny. So two questions come up then. So is it the same thing for everybody that needs to change in the handwriting, or does each one need a unique, does each like, would I have unique things that I would need changed and other people might, or is it always the same? Like, is there a standard alphabet that is the free alphabet?
Yeah, that's a great question. So every name is obviously different. Like your name is Pam, my name is Misty. And so we're working with different energies because we're working with different letters. We're working with different patterns. Every single letter in the alphabet has a pattern and it has an energy to it. So like I said, it's like different colored glasses. The M, for
Mm-hmm.
example, I'd be seeing out of pink, to whereas the P, for example, you'd be seeing out of maybe red. Again, the different glasses that you're wearing, so therefore you're going to see. And that's why when I changed my last name through marriage, I was experiencing life differently because I was experiencing a different energy with different letters. So because
Got it.
my experience shifted, so with every single letter, the certain letter every letter has a pattern and an energy. And so with that, I always say to people, everybody is their own unique combination. And I'm actually doing a free masterclass at the end of this month that's called Unlocking the Future of Human Potential. And it's a combination lock. And it's like if you have a combination lock like we did in high school, it's like your combination is 12, 22, 36, and then you unlock it. It unlocks every single time because you know the code. Well, when you figure out the handwriting code, then you get to unlock yourself on a level of spirituality that kind of, I always say, like unlocks a level of your soul that says, hey, the soul's in charge making the decisions versus the human, because I have a very spiritual journey, and really understanding that and opening that up, it allows you to reach your soul's true potential because we all came here with a mission. We're all here for a reason. We have a purpose. There is something here for us to learn, for us to do, for us to be of service. There's a difference that we all are meant to make, whether it be for just, certain people or on a larger scale. That's, per that individual of what they chose.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we can reach a lot more growth in one lifetime as opposed to sitting back in the sidelines, not playing on the field, and
Yep.
getting lessons learned that we're supposed to learn from the journey.
I love that. Thinking about this, when my code to unlock my lock is going to be different than your code to unlock your lock. And
Correct.
so one of the things I'm thinking of that would be a great application for the work you do is for an entrepreneur is like today I'm talking with someone about redoing my website. And I should probably have you help me pick the font, right? So that's something that's an interesting, thing you can add as part of what you offer is, look, this font on your website is actually limiting your beliefs or limiting you. I love that.
Well, it's not so much the font on the website. It's like everything does matter. Everything does have an impact. It's more when you're writing it as opposed to when
Got
somebody's
it.
seeing that, they might look at it and be like, oh, I want to write more like that. So I always give an analogy of like eighth graders. You get two girls that are in eighth grade. One girl moved from another state, and all of a sudden these two girls are hanging out and they're in eighth grade, and then 3 months go by, and then all of a sudden the one girl looks at the other girl and she sees her writing. She's like, oh, I like the way you write your S. and I'm going to start doing that. Well, what happened was those two girls had been hanging out for 3 months. And because they had been hanging out for 3 months, their images, their patterns, their thoughts, their energy have been together for a long enough time that it had an impact. So after 3 months, when she saw that letter S and liked it and decided to start writing it herself, like that, it had already been in the works for 3 months before she saw it and decided to make that change. Now, obviously,
Yep.
younger, we're a lot more impressionable. It's a little bit easier to make that shift, but it's just a matter of, the importance of who you hang around, and who you're around is important. So if someone's going to look at a font over and over and over for 20 years on their website and see that loop in their D, for example, then they'd be like, oh, I'm going to start writing a loop in my D after maybe
Gotcha.
that it won't have a positive impact on that individual.
So not only does our writing affect our life affects our writing.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought of something I wanted to ask you, and now I can't remember. Oh, any insights into left hand versus right hand writing?
Yes. When someone writes left hand, there's a whole nother dynamic that takes place. And I always say you're working more with the inner child work. However, someone who's writing left-handed, then they're not writing with the right hand, then there's a whole nother dynamic that plays out. So there's a lot of work that gets done with the mindset that I always say it's like going to the gym for your brain. You go to the gym to work out your body and work out your muscles and do all the steps to have those abs and to get bigger muscles and to whatever you want to do to make your body more firm and toned. Well, you do the same thing with handwriting every single morning. You can have a daily discipline where you start writing, and that becomes your daily discipline to exercise your brain. It's like going to the gym for your brain.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And we all can learn to write with right or left if we need to. That's
Yes.
the other thing. And it's just a matter of what you practice are we inherently right or left-handed? I know that's probably a trigger question, but I'm curious. Or do we just learn one and then that's what we stick with?
I believe as souls, we choose whether we want to be right-handed or left-handed because of the experience that you have with it.
Got it.
Another experience if you're a right-handed person than if you're a left-handed person, and that individual wanted to experience it that way. And I've had people say that they were told, no, you can't write left-handed, and they got their hand slapped or whatever from school, and they're like,
yeah, I remember that from my days as a kid. Not me, but other kids.
Yeah, that they were forced to then write right-handed. I always say, hey, go back. Just because that happened 35, 40 years ago, you could still go back and start to train yourself because that's the experience that you wanted. That's why you went in with that certain level of understanding with the handwriting.
Very interesting. Okay. So what are one or two things people could do who are watching this either live or on replay to come to some conclusions or make some changes about their handwriting? I love to give people a couple tips they can walk away with and use today.
Yeah, well, definitely don't write in all capital letters because every letter matters. And when you write in all capital letters, it does create blocks and walls with people. I actually did an experiment for a while where I wrote in all capital letters just so I could feel what it feels like and experience what that experience was like. And all of a sudden, it was like everybody was just showing up in my world as very boxy and very like, I don't know how else to explain it other than boxy. And it was like, got to follow the rules. And everybody wasn't, that lovey-dovey feeling or that, compassion.
Yeah,
and
flow, going with the flow.
It was just kind of flat. And so because of that, I was like, after a couple of weeks of trying it out because I wanted to experience it. And I even dated a guy for a while with all capital letters. I was like, yeah, this does not work.
Not going to work. I love that.
It does.
Wow.
It doesn't benefit the experience that I want to experience, and the impact of it. It all matters. It was just an understanding of now I get it. Now I can reference what that feels like, and I don't like the way that feels. Therefore, I'm not going to do it. I want to go through and have my emotions. Even it's hard enough trying to go through your emotions without blockages, let alone blockages and overcome them as well. So
especially since it sounds like there are things we can really change that make this easier. Now, where can people find out more, find your book, those kind of things? What I want to give in the comments here some places people can track you or your book down.
So my book is on Amazon. It's called You Can Heal Your Life with Handwriting, and by Misty Cogdill. So because it's on Amazon, it's $8.88. You can find a lot. There's a lot of my story in there, of how kind of I understand everything with it. My website is handwriting-soul-academy.com. So www.handwriting-soul-academy.com. And then I have a private or public Facebook group called Handwriting-Soul Academy. So it's facebook.com/group/Handwriting-Soul Academy, where I actually offer free handwriting analysis in that group for anybody who's in that group, and then let them know about my services that I offer, where I've got a couple different packages depending on what the individual wants. Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. The chat locked up on me here on StreamYard, but I'm going to go ahead and put all of that information in the comments, both in the group and on my regular feed and YouTube, so that people know how to reach out to you. But this is a fascinating conversation, and our friend, there we go, our friend Valentino, who pops in regularly. Valentino, I so appreciate your attending these and participating so much. I hope they bring a lot to you, because you've been hugely supportive. So thank you for that. And congratulations on the book. So
Thank you. Thank you.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
it was a lot of fun.
And a lot of work, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah, deal. All right. So unlocking the future of human potential is what you're about. I am so glad you're here, folks. If you have questions for Misty, she's in our group. If you're interested in reaching out, in addition to the stuff that we put in the comments where you can get her directly there, feel free to ping her in the group, DM, anything like that, so that we can keep this engaged. It's a really cool conversation. If you have questions about your handwriting, drop them in the comments, and Misty will check them out for the next couple days and give us answers. So just be sure to tag her so she knows you've got a question in here. And as from a beautiful day in the Northeast here, where we finally have 71 degrees and sun, and from Alabama, we're going to sign out and wish you guys a fantastic Thursday. I look forward to more Snack and Learns with you guys next week. Thanks so much for joining us. Your support here means the world to me, and I only hope that these sessions have been really helpful for you as well. Have a fantastic evening. Misty, thanks again.
Thank you, Pam. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye.